Hi everyone, AstralUrmah here. Today I want to have a real heart to heart about something that's been on my mind and something I've been talking to a lot today about one of my friends. Thank you, Aaron. How can we all have such different perspectives in the metaphysical world and how that's not just okay, but inevitable? The deeper I go into my own journey, the more I realize that we're each living inside our own personal reality bubble. Every belief you hold, every frequency you resonate with, every choice you make, it all shapes the timeline you're experiencing. And the thing is, no two timelines are exactly the same. That's why sometimes it feels like we're all standing in the same room, but experiencing completely different realities. One person sees disclosure as liberation, another sees it as manipulation, and someone else might not even register that anything unusual is happening at all. And it's not just that anybody is necessarily wrong, it's just that we're each tuning into different currents of experiences based on our frequency and perception. But here's where it gets tricky. When we hold too tightly onto our version of reality, disagreements can escalate fast, especially in metaphysical spaces, because people become very deeply invested in their perspective because it ties directly to their sense of identity, purpose, and mission. Suddenly, you're not just debating information, you're defending who you are. And that's where the timeline wars begin. From the astral level, I've seen how these overlapping realities unfold. They're like these currents of experiences flowing side by side, each one shaped by collective agreements, personal choices, and sometimes even interference from external forces. Some realities lean towards liberation, some towards control, and others hover somewhere in between. None of them are inherently more real than others. They simply are different expressions of possibility. And that's why no single person, not me, not you, not the Taigetans, not Yazi, not the Urmah, or any advanced being or any advanced race, has the full picture. Everyone in every place is perceiving the universe through their own lens. Even interdimensional perspectives come with their own filters based on density, frequency, purpose. That's why contradictions exist, even among trusted sources. So, where does that leave us? I think the key is remembering that someone else's reality doesn't invalidate your own. You can hold your truth without needing everyone else to agree with it. And instead of arguing over who's right, we can approach these conversations with curiosity and empathy. Ask questions, listen, share your experiences openly. If we can create a safe space to do that, and that's what I'm trying to do in the AstralUrmah chat, okay? By doing that, we can start building bridges between realities instead of deepening the divides. At the end of the day, we're all navigating a massive, multi-dimensional puzzle, and none of us has all the pieces. But together, by comparing perspectives without ego and without judgment, without ridicule and without accusations, we can start to see more of the bigger picture. So as we move forward, let's remember, disagreement doesn't have to lead to division. Different realities don't have to become battlegrounds. We're all here to learn from each other's vantage points, and if we can hold space for that, we can evolve together, even while walking very different paths. And here is the deeper truth. Some of these timeline divergences aren't random. There are forces out there, both physical and astral, even though they're both the same, that understand how collective perception shapes reality. And they're actively trying to influence which timelines people tune into. It's like a current. That's why I'm saying currents of experiences, because they're trying to pull people into these currents You can see this in the information wars, in controlled narratives, and even in some of the metaphysical guidance people receive. Not all of it is neutral. Some of it is designed to push humanity towards timelines of dependency, control, and technological assimilation. And you've heard me talk about that a lot recently. But here's the empowering part. No one can force you into a timeline you don't consent to. The frequency you hold, the choices you make, and the way you navigate your own consciousness, those are the keys. By staying grounded in your inner truth and aligning with experiences that resonate with your highest state, you naturally gravitate towards currents that support your sovereignty. That's why conversations like this are so important. Sharing our stories, comparing perspectives, and questioning everything. It's how we reclaim our ability to choose. The more aware we are of the different currents of experiences flowing around us, the less likely we are to be pulled into one that doesn't serve us. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. You are not powerless in the face of these timeline wars. You're the anchor point of your reality. When you choose your frequency deliberately and walk in alignment with your truth, you stop reacting to the currents around you and you start navigating them consciously. And when more of us do that together, we start co-creating entirely new currents of experiences. Ones rooted in sovereignty, connection, and genuine awakening. That's when the real shift happens. So let's get into a few points of how to consciously shift timelines. It isn't about forcing reality to your will. It's about aligning your inner state with the current you want to experience. And this is how you can start, okay? Anchor into presence. Before you can choose a new current, you have to fully step into this moment. Slow your breathing, feel your body, become aware of the frequency you're holding right now without judgment. Set your inner frequency. Your reality bends around the frequency you embody, not the one you wish for. If you want to align with a current of freedom, empowerment, and connection, you have to cultivate those states inside first. Get clear on your intentions. Timelines respond to clarity. Be specific about the experience you want to move towards. Say them out loud. Write them down, visualize them. Give your consciousness a direction to flow into. Release external control. You can't control other people's choices or timelines, but you can control where you place your focus, where you place your point of attention. Stop feeding energy into currents of fear and manipulation and redirect it towards currents that nourish your sovereignty. And that brings me to another point. I want to talk about accusations. Never be the accuser. Never accuse people of doing this or accuse them of doing that. Okay? That is trying to impose fear upon another person, especially if you say, we're watching you and the ETs are watching you and you're doing this bad, and you start you start accusing somebody of this or that. That's just feeding fear. That happened recently to me, so that's why I'm mentioning it. Hold the higher vantage point. Even when chaos hits, remember, you are not trapped in one current unless you believe you are. Hold the perspectives that multiple realities exist simultaneously, and choose the one that feels aligned. This is how you consciously shift timelines. It's not about escaping, it's about choosing over and over until the current you're walking aligns with who you truly are. Because at the end of the day, no one else chooses for you. Not governments, not extraterrestrials, not Federation councils, not me. You are the navigator of your reality. And once enough of us remember that, the timeline wars lose their power. Okay, I'm going to give you, if you've made it this far, 9 minutes and 51 seconds, I'm going to give you a little bit more. my astral perspective. I've seen these timeline wars firsthand in the astral. There are missions where me, myself, Chris Rael, and others have found ourselves in spaces where different groups were fighting to influence how reality would unfold. Some wanted to lock humanity into cycles of control and regression. Others were trying to keep high frequency pathways open so people could remember who they are, who they're becoming. I've seen entire currents of experiences collapsing, being rewritten or hijacked in real time. I've walked into places where one version of Earth was thriving, filled with light and sovereignty, and just a few steps away, another version was locked under domination and artificial constructs. And I've seen beings, both human and non-human, working overtime to guide people into the current that benefits their agenda. These aren't just ideas, they're lived realities. And the reason I share this isn't to create fear, obviously. It's to remind you how much power you actually have. Because when you learn to recognize these currents, when you tune into your heart and hold your frequency steady, you stop being a passive participant and start becoming a conscious navigator. And that's what this is really about. Not picking a winning side in the timeline wars, but stepping into your sovereignty so you can choose the current of experience and experiences and have the experiences you want to have and you want to live in, and help others find theirs too. And that's why I'm saying all this stuff. That's why I'm doing everything I'm doing it. Because when enough of us do that, the game changes. The manipulated timelines lose strength. And then the natural ones, the organic ones, the passive awakening and rememberers, the natural ones, the organic paths of awakening and remembrance start to expand. That's when humanity steps into its power again. And that is where we're headed. So let's keep going. Thank you for watching. I love you all.